All right, welcome back. This is episode 2. Thank you for tuning in and listening. I hope the pilot was a pretty easy listen. So, today will be our first real episode. I think I wanted to start kind of getting into more serious topics or just actually have content to speak about. Today, I wanted to focus on the issues and subjects of identity and development and how that kind of changes throughout the lifespan and develops from, I guess, being a kid to growing older and becoming an adult. I think it's definitely been something that I've thought about more recently in the context of my own identity and development and kind of reflecting and seeing how far I've come in a sense, how far I still have to go, but just being able to take a step back and look at the bigger picture and see where I've come. So yeah, I think my identity has been all over the place, and I think it's something about myself that I may not have always wanted to accept or even really focus on. And I think that it wasn't until I had went into therapy that I was kind of face to face with it and was kind of forced to really acknowledge who I was and maybe who I didn't realize I was at the time. But I think that ultimately that did help in the long run, and I feel that oftentimes you can't really know other people and understand them until you can kind of get to know yourself and understand who you are, your own philosophy, why it is the way that it is, and pretty much where you got that from in a sense or who influenced you. I think the biggest influence has always been my parents, and I've been back home for break over the last month or so, and I've been able to kind of stay home and really see them after not being home for about like 4 to 5 months. And it's been kind of refreshing, honestly, because I feel like as a kid when I was younger, I definitely would butt heads with them a lot. We definitely just had disagreements on how we would do things, how we saw certain situations. And I think that I feel like they always would kind of hit me, especially my dad. He would always hit me with one day you'll understand, or one day you'll see why I do this, or like, I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for you, it's for your future. And that day is definitely getting pretty close. I think a lot of the times now when I'm doing things or when I kind of reflect, I'm like, oh, he was right about this and that and that. And I think that that's kind of shown to me that I've definitely had a shift in my mindset, and more so that I'm definitely a lot more like him than I thought. I feel like if you had told me maybe like 5-6 years ago that me and him were the same, I definitely would disagree with you and kind of say that we are not the same person at all. But yeah, looking at it now, I can't lie. Me and him are the same. I definitely do resonate with a lot of things that he did as a kid. And I think he definitely was not him, but my mom too, but they definitely were a very big reason, probably like the main reason that I turned out the way that I did. So I definitely did have to give them their flowers for that. But honestly, I've gotten to the point now where when I think of myself, I guess, and how I may present to people who are strangers or people that don't know me, I definitely always in the back of my mind have that thought of however I present to this person is kind of a direct reflection of who my parents are. And I think that it's kind of cool that even though they're two different people, that I kind of have the best parts of both of them, and kind of you can see aspects of who they are in me in a sense, but not even in the same way that my sisters may be, because we are all our own different people. Even though we were raised together, same house, same parents, everybody's different, and that kind of goes back to my point of how identity is unique to you in a sense. And that's partly because identity is what you make it, like you choose who you hang around with, who you spend your time with, pretty much what type of media you consume, whether it's what books you read, what shows you watch, what movies. And I feel like a lot of people don't really recognize, I guess, how much power there is in that, With your own identity, like, it's all up to you. At the end of the day, you choose what you take in, what you put out to the world, and the world responds based on what it sees. And I think that once you kind of recognize that power and see how much, like how big of a role you play in your own destiny and perception, I think that is something that really does force you to kind of want to be more intentional in your actions and how you show yourself to others. But I would argue that even if you kind of are aware of the power that you have over yourself, and it kind of doesn't mean as much if you already don't appreciate yourself. And that could kind of be whether you appreciate who you are right now or who you're going to become. But I think that ultimately at the end of the day, you do need to have love for yourself in a sense and really be comfortable with who it is that you see in the mirror. Because I can say, like, honestly, I haven't always been in the spot where I am now, where I kind of truly accept myself 100% for who I am and how I present myself. And I think that in the past, not having that acceptance, like that unconditional acceptance for myself, definitely did get in the way of maybe opportunities that I had presented to me or kind of just how I lived life. And it felt that I maybe did not deserve certain opportunities that were handed to me. And that kind of caused me to maybe not take advantage of it or kind of just sell myself short in the sense where I felt like I just was not somebody who was worth the opportunity or somebody worth doing certain things. And I think that extends also to not even just yourself, but also how you view other people. Because in all honesty, like, if you don't really accept yourself, you can't go and accept other people. You know, like, if you don't think highly of yourself, why would you think highly of somebody else, you know? And I definitely did fall into the trap of kind of like admiring people or kind of really having respect for some people. One, just for their ability to be themselves unapologetically, but also for kind of having certain qualities that maybe I wish I had. But what I realize is that you can have those qualities. There's nothing that says that you can't be this person or speak this way or act this way. At the end of the day, it's all up to you and pretty much what you decide. I think once you do make that decision to kind of be the maker of your own destiny and kind of control the narrative of yourself to yourself, I feel like once you kind of get over that bridge, then you realize just how easy it is to do so. I'd say mine had started probably about like 2 to 3 years ago. And I remember it was when I was still living in Wisconsin because I had a job up there. But I went to like this thrift store with a friend one time, and I picked up this book. It was only like $1 because it was one of those thrift stores where they just had everything really cheap. And I was kind of like, I need to get back into reading. I might as well get this book. It's only $1. And it wasn't like a really big book. So I was like, I can at least force myself to finish this, you know. But the book was called Reinventing Yourself. I forget the author. I think it was like Steve Chandler. But I think that book was definitely something that really helped me to open my eyes more so, not even just in the terms of my identity and who I am, but also like just the bigger picture in a sense. Like, what is it that I want to do? Because I think I definitely was at a time too where I definitely maybe was not fulfilled at work and definitely was kind of just lost without direction. And I think that was partly because I just felt lost because I didn't know who I was in a sense. But that book definitely did help me a lot. I definitely think that I did reinvent myself and allowed myself to kind of be the maker of my destiny, kind of allow myself to see that I did have a lot more power and that I can control who I am and what I would like to do. Yeah, I mean, I highly recommend that book. I've been trying to get back more into reading ever since then, but I think that was the one that kind of kickstarted everything. I've definitely recommended that book to a couple of my friends, because I feel like when you're kind of in the midst of, I guess, a storm or kind of unsure of what direction you go, oftentimes you kind of forget that you're the one who's steering the ship. And I think that the book was definitely a reminder to me, not even just a reminder, but definitely something that did show me that I can be who I want to be. Like, it's never too late to reinvent yourself. And that was also one of the main things that I had learned in my development class. One of like the very first things that we talked about is that development is not something that just ever stops. You know, development occurs across the lifespan, like from a child to an old person. Development never ceases. And I think that's because as humans, we are unfinished products. And I think having the mindset of not ever being done definitely encourages you to want to do more, be more, and kind of just be whoever you want to be, because there's no end date on it. There's no timeline. There's nothing that says that you have to have everything figured out by this age. And I wish that was something that somebody had told me when I was much younger, because I feel like growing up, I was always kind of fed the like narrative that, oh, like by this age you have to know this, like you need to know, oh, what you're going to major in, what kind of job you want to get, what you want to do for the rest of your life, this and that. But in all honesty, I definitely did not know that at all. I mean, like, you can ask like anybody, like for the longest time they'd be like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I think in 7th grade, I don't know, somebody had asked me, they're like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I told them an astrophysicist just because I thought it was a cool word, but I didn't like physics. I barely passed it in like college. I retook it over the summer, but I definitely kind of just had to say something just so I could kind of get them off my back. But I think literally from, I don't even, like forever, like I'd never had any idea of what it was I wanted to do. Like at 7th grade, I said an astrophysicist, and then the next week I was like, oh, I wanted to be a doctor. And then in high school, I kind of was just like, I don't know, let me get this diploma, let me graduate high school, and then I'll figure it out. And I think one of the things that really sticks out to me now when I look back and reflect was like my junior year. I had taken an AP Psych class, and it was honestly one of the most interesting classes I had ever taken, and I really liked the teacher. And it was something that I definitely was very heavily invested in, and I enjoyed coming to class and learning. And at the time, my dad was having like the same conversation with me. He was like, oh, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, what do you want to be? And I was like, oh, I have this psychology class. I think it's really interesting, you know. And for those of my people that know, like being immigrant or being African American, being Habesha specifically, like psychology isn't something that's really encouraged in a sense. And that entire week he was driving me to school. I told him that Monday, I was like, oh yeah, I like the psychology class. I think I want to be a psychologist. Every day, the rest of the week, he was like, so do you know what kind of psychologist? Do you know how much you get paid? Do you know this? Do you know that? By Friday, I was just like, I don't want to be a psychologist anymore. And he was like, okay, what do you want to be? And I was like, I don't know now. And that was definitely something I look back to now, because now I can kind of see, like, he definitely did mean well. You know, I think it was definitely coming from a place of love, because I think a lot of times within psychology now, especially, but not even just with psychology, but with a lot of degrees, you need to pursue like higher education to be able to find like a decent job or something that can pay kind of well. So like looking back at it now, I understand. Like I understand why he did it. Even though it was discouraging at the time, I do understand that he meant it from a place of love. And I've had this conversation with him now, and it's kind of funny because he's like, yeah, I mean, you didn't really know what you were doing. And I was like, you're right. He was just asking questions to kind of see how far I had thought it through, and that kind of just showed that I didn't really think it through. which goes back to my original point of you don't have to have it figured out, because I graduated high school and then I went to undergrad, and I was undeclared, like I was undecided from, I think I decided a major probably like at the end of my sophomore year. And at that point I just picked up like exercise science, because I was like, I mean, sports are cool. I like working out, like I like playing sports. I guess this might be what I want to do. So yeah, I put a major of exercise science, and then I also added a minor of philosophy, because I was like, philosophy school, I guess I like to think, you know. Fast forward like to like senior year, and I dropped the philosophy major because I was like, I mean, I don't care enough for philosophy. It's like, it's cool, but I can think without it having to be on my degree. And with exercise science, I was like, you know, at this point, I just want to graduate. I've already been here like 3-4 years. I don't want to be here another 2-3 with a major that maybe I might kind of like. So I kind of just pushed through, got the degree. And it wasn't until like my last semester that I kind of was able to really start to think more clearly about what it was that I enjoyed, and it kind of brought me back to that same like motivation to learn that I had in that psych class in high school. And it was like this sports psychology, or like the psychology of like health and exercise, that I took with a professor my last semester, along with this internship that I had on the west side of Chicago at a high school. And I think that class and that internship definitely kind of opened the door a little bit for me, and kind of showed me that there are things that I like to do. You know, like it's not just I'm wandering around aimlessly. Like I do have passions. And I think it wasn't until that semester that I kind of figured out those passions. But at the same time, I was kind of just like, I want to graduate. I want to get out the house. I want to get a job. I had already gotten my job offer in Wisconsin. So at that point, I was set on just graduating and then moving out and just being able to work and make money and everything. But I think that even after I had graduated, I was just still in that mindset of, oh, like I have something lined up right now. I don't know how long it's going to be for, but it's kind of just a placeholder in a sense. Like I never really took a step back to think about the bigger future. And I feel like I'm definitely somebody who figured it out like very late. And I feel like, especially in undergrad too, like you have everybody who's got their majors, or like, oh, I'm going to go to med school, like I'm pre-med, this and that. I definitely felt very lost for a very good chunk of undergrad, probably all of undergrad, even before that, where it's just like you have everybody around you, and college is supposed to be a place where you figure it out and kind of figure out what it is that you want to do in life. And for me, I never really knew, and it was kind of definitely very confusing because everybody else seems to have it figured out. So to me, I kind of felt like, am I like behind? Like, am I lagging behind? Like, is there something wrong with me? Like, have I just not found like my moment? Do I not know what's going on? Like, how come everybody else knows what they want to do, but I don't? And that kind of definitely didn't like take a heavy toll on me, but it was definitely something I kept in the back of my mind, because it was kind of just like I didn't really know what to look forward to. Like it kind of just felt like pretty much I'm just going throughout the stages of life, kind of going through the motions, but when will I kind of find my thing? You know, like when will I find something that is for me? And now, like looking back at it, I definitely do appreciate going through that process, because it kind of definitely, one, taught me that like you can really do anything whenever you want. Like you can pivot at any time, even though it might seem to be difficult. At the end of the day, like nothing's set in stone. Like there's nothing that says that you need to have everything figured out by a certain age. And it's definitely reassuring now, because a lot of people that I talk to now, especially around my age group, like after like they graduated college, like they've been at a job and stuff, but you know, it's just like you need a job, you got to work, this and that. But there's always still the kind of like the doubt, in a sense, of like, is this what I'm meant to do? Like, is this what I want to be doing forever? I'm not sure. And I think for me, like being able to embrace the uncertainty definitely did pay off. I think that it definitely was something that influenced me and allowed me to just go at everything with an open mind and not really force myself into something that I maybe was not confident in or maybe I wasn't sure was for me. And I think it's really interesting now because when I talk to like my younger cousins or even the other thing is I work as a like youth counselor in Baltimore City. So I work with a lot of kids that are in either like middle school or like high school. And like the boys that I work with in high school are usually sophomore to like seniors. And I think about what I was doing at that point. Like for me, I was not really thinking like 5-10 years into the future. And I think that a lot of them are still, some of them still kind of have the same idea of like, graduation is coming up, I need to have this figured out. I need to have a job or I need to go to school, this and that. And I think one of the things that I've definitely like focused on, especially with my job, I really do like our organization because it's more holistic support in a sense where it's like personal development but also professional development where they give them education, they show them that there's different things you can do. Like if you want to go to school, you can go to college, or if you want to go to trade school, that's also an option too. And I think that's really what I do enjoy about the work that I do is because it's all, at the end of the day, it's all about opening the door and like showing them that that door exists and that there are those opportunities in a sense. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you have to take that opportunity, you know? But knowing that there are things that you can do and kind of broadening your horizons and allowing you to be exposed to new ideas and opportunities is honestly the biggest thing between being able to make a decision and not, because at the end of the day, at least you have a decision to make. But I think one of the things that I reiterate to them all the time is that like, when you're like 16, 17, 18, like there is still so much life ahead of you. And I can tell you, like, literally in, like, the last 5 years, like, I've gone through, like, so many different stages of life. And when I think back to me as a 17-year-old, like, they're already better off than I was because I didn't really have any inkling of an idea of what I would do. Like, to me, it was just, like, college, graduate, I don't know. Like, it was just kind of a blank space. And I think that with some of them, they do fall into the trap of, oh, I need to know this. Like, if I go to college, I need to know what college. If I need to declare a major, I need to do this and that. And I tell them, like, you don't need to do anything. Like, yes, you can go to college, but that you don't have to declare that major right away, you know? There's time for you to still figure things out. At the end of the day, you're still young. And if college doesn't end up being the path for you, there's always something else. Like, there you always have another choice. And I think that that's something that I definitely wish was instilled in me a bit more, rather than kind of having that pressure to succeed and perform and have things figured out by a certain time. But I think that the pressure that I felt definitely was both internal and external, and I think that it definitely stemmed from my background and my identity. One being like an immigrant, because I came to the U.S. probably when I was about 4 or 5. And so I'm first generation immigrant, I guess, technically. And so, like, I have always grown up in the household where, like, English is not my parents' first language. And they're definitely, like, America's foreign to them, too. Like, thinking about, like, when my father moved here and he, like, went to school and was working to get enough money to bring me and my mom here, like, seeing that every day and seeing the work that they put in to make sure that we have like a roof, house, food, everything, it definitely does motivate you. And I felt like it kind of did add that pressure because it was more so like I can see like you left everybody behind back home, like you left the family back and you're in here in like a strange place with people you don't know, language that you don't speak. And it's tough. Like I think about like if I was to like leave right now, like immigrate to like a whole other country where I don't know the language and I have to like raise a family, like that scares me. Like I'm getting to the age now where like I'm truly like understanding like how much of a risk and like how much strength it takes for them to be able to do that. And that's kind of what pushes me too, because I just can't let you like do all that for nothing. And I need to do it not for myself but for them as well. And I think that that definitely motivates me like on a day-to-day basis, like pushing myself so that they don't have to do like work like 3 jobs a week to kind of keep everything going for me and my sisters. And I think that my experience as like the child of like immigrants is something that I definitely did not want to really acknowledge. And I think back to when I was in like elementary/middle school, because I went to a public school up until like 4th grade, but then after starting in 5th grade, my parents transferred me to like this Catholic private school. And that was definitely something that I had to maybe like hide, not even hide, but something that I just didn't really want to acknowledge as much in a sense, because going to like the private school, like one, like it's predominantly white, so I already feel like I kind of stick out in a sense because there's nobody else that really looks like me as much. And the other thing too is that most of my classmates, like their parents like speak English fine, like were born here, like they have good jobs, like they're very familiar with American culture and everything. And it kind of caused me to just kind of like shy away, maybe because there was some shame in my background and who I was, but it definitely was something that I was not as comfortable with. And like growing up now, like it's something I wear with pride in a sense, because I feel like having an experience like that and coming from that background kind of makes you more hypercritical and like hyper aware of who you are and how you might present to other people. But I wear it with pride now. I think that background, like that is what shaped me into who I am, and that is why I am the way I am, why I interact with people the way I do. And it definitely shows you like the humanity of things. You know, like there are people who have like they fought tooth and nail to kind of just even step foot in this country just to get in here. And even on top of that, like that's barely half the battle, because after you get here, then you also have to find a job, like find housing. And especially with how the standard of living is today in America, it's definitely much harder to even like support a family. So just to even get here and support yourself, that's already like that's one of the biggest things you can do to be able to kind of make a name for yourself and be able to step out in a place that you don't know, that you've never been. Like I truly have so much respect for my parents and honestly everybody else who has had to just leave their home to come here. And I think that once I did really come to terms with it and accept that part of my identity, I just felt so much more free, because it felt like for the longest like I was trying to hide who I was from myself, which honestly just doesn't work. Like you might be able to lie to everybody else, but at the end of the day you can't lie to yourself. Like no matter how hard you try, like you cannot be somebody that you are not. Like you can't deny something that is such a core aspect of your being and who you are. And I feel that once you learn to kind of really see all those parts of yourself and your identity and who you are, then you kind of just feel it's more liberating, you know? Like if you can really accept yourself, like that's something that's really big, because a lot of people will often try to deny who they are to themselves, you know, kind of try to live a lie or like be somebody that they're not. And it gets tiring. Like I can tell you personally, like it was so like my confidence was like it definitely took a hit. Like it's just so hard to kind of put on a front and try to act like somebody you're not. So that's why I advocate for just being able to examine yourself, introspect, kind of see who you are, and being able to accept it. Whether you have strengths or flaws, being able to accept who you are is one of the best things you can do for yourself. Because once you learn to have that same compassion for yourself that you give to others, once you learn to love who you are, then at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to you what other people think. If you know who you are and you have confidence and you appreciate who you are, it does not matter who says what about you. It doesn't matter if they like you, if they don't like you. At the end of the day, if they don't like you, it's probably for the best. Maybe they're not meant for you. That was something that I came to realize, because I think I definitely was somebody who always is very eager to please, always tries to appeal to everybody regardless of the situation. But once you kind of learn to see that as long as you love yourself and as long as the people who you hold dear love you, who else in the world really matters? There's the world is so huge that there's so many people that you have yet to meet that may really enjoy your presence, may really appreciate you. So why get caught up on one or two people who may not feel that way? At the end of the day, it shows you where you stand. It really kind of not questions, but it really validates your authenticity. If you can truly be genuine and authentic to yourself despite what other people may seem like, that's half the battle. There was this topic, or kind of this theory that we had talked about in one of my classes, and one of the main things that we talked about was congruency, in a sense, where if you are congruent with yourself, which is to be authentic and true to yourself, but incongruent with the world, if you are one way inside by yourself, but when you go out to the world and you are incongruent, or you kind of act a different way than you would to yourself, that is something that is very tiring. And like I said, you can't be one person to yourself and one to everybody else. You have to be as authentic as possible, because being authentic and genuine, the people that should be in your life are attracted by your authenticity, because being authentic to yourself, it attracts what is meant for you. So if somebody has a problem with you being authentic or being true to yourself or being your best self, and that's truly who you are, if they don't appreciate that, if they have a problem with that, what does that tell you about them? Maybe they're just not for you. And at the end of the day, that's fine. Not everybody is for you. And think about it in the grand scheme of things. I think there's 8 billion, maybe 9 billion people in this world. If my math might be terribly off, but if 1% of them don't like you, then there's still billions of other people that do like you. And I feel that goes to show that you shouldn't really get caught up on maybe trying to please everybody. Just approach every situation as authentically as possible. Be yourself. Being yourself would attract what you want, what you deserve, who's for you, repel who's not for you. And ultimately that keeps things going, because then you know that you're surrounding yourself with the people that are for you, But I think that's generally the gist of what I was trying to get at. And I feel my identity is something that I've had to figure out that way. And once I got to the point of being able to at first just be comfortable with myself and who I am, I was able to kind of stop overthinking how it is that I interact with people. Did I make a good impression, this and that? And it kind of just takes out the pressure of social situations and being able to perform or put on a certain image to appease somebody. But I think that once you kind of learn to accept that and kind of enjoy yourself, enjoy who you are, who you're becoming, and that kind of definitely helps to develop the identity or the person that you do want to be. But I think I'm going to wrap it up now. I feel like I was on my little soapbox for a bit, rambling. But I got most of the points and messages that I was trying to get across, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next episode.